We made it to the end of the year.
Live from It's almost 2024 studios. It's the Friday Show.
Wow.
Featuring
I miss our
Ari, the
old
Data
music
Queen,
already.
Analyst Hole, Matt Mascardi, Jesse, the Money Whisperer, and me, Hazelnut Rawless.
Yeah.
On today's weekly wrap-up, something even better, our yearly wrap-up.
Ooh.
Wait, we skipped this week entirely.
Yeah,
I realized that just now.
It's fine. 2023 in review today. I don't know why we're doing it today, because no one wants to work next Friday. Is that why?
Yes.
Yeah, no one's
No
gonna be
one
here.
will be
Nobody's
working next
I might be
Friday.
working. I have a holiday Christmas
Matt
theater
said
show
he was
to put
working
out.
all week.
Mine is Friday.
Yeah.
It's understood.
I'm working all week.
So we're gonna do it a little bit differently today. Here's how it's gonna work. We're gonna for all those loyal fans who stick with us every week. Do you think that person exists? Do we have that loyal fan? Yes.
Well, they used to be in Finland, but now no more.
So this is an overly complicated show. I took every winning headline from all of our categories and sent it around to the company and asked them to pick five headlines. Right?
Us?
I literally asked them to select 5 stories, and they
No, you did not.
I did, and they each came back with about 40 stories. So here's how it's going to work.
Categories.
Wait, excuse me.
Here's how it's going to work.
Categories.
You did.
I'm gonna go last. I'm gonna do story of the year based on what we vote in all the other categories, and I'm also gonna try to fill in some of the gaps of the stories I think they might have missed. So we'll wrap up that way, and we'll start with something highly unusual. We're going to start with Jesse, the Money Whisperer, with the exhaustingest story of the year.
I don't know why you guys chose that.
Well, because
Starting
Jesse,
on a high note.
because unfortunately your story usually works really well, your category. By the time we get to you, I'm really ready to wring your neck. So
yeah, and you guys have already covered most of
I know.
our
Look,
stuff,
there's
so
going to be a
this
lot
is
of
fun.
redundancy in today's show. I can already tell. So try to get to the point. Jesse, what do you have? Exhaustingest of the year. The most exhausting story.
Here's the bad news.
Yeah.
Before we get started, because Damien pressed all the buttons, now none of the live audio
no
works.
music?
So
How'd you get the Rocky theme going?
I'm going to have to play something else no, you screwed up something with all the buttons, so now there's no music.
Oh.
So Rocky worked and nothing else.
Play Rocky again.
So that
then.
means we're basically just going to listen to Rocky, and we
There we
have
go. It's
no
perfect.
other
Perfect.
sound effects.
Come on,
for the
Jesse, what do you
entire
got?
show.
Jesse, get pumped.
Okay.
Most exhausting of the
you
year.
guys ready?
Yes, excited.
What happened?
When does this music
It
end?
just never stops.
Oh, okay. All right.
There, go for it.
All right. Up first, we got my category. I thought we were doing categories.
It's all right.
here,
However you
okay?
want to interpret
were.
it.
So here's my first category. Moms get fed last. We know this.
okay.
Here are some of the headlines. More moms are leaving the workforce, but not because they want to. Working women spend $15.4 billion more than men in out-of-pocket health costs. And this isn't like a workforce one, but September 5th was Equal Housework Day. It's time for women to quit housework again. September 5th.
Well, what are they going to do? Because Strive Asset Management all year has been voting women out of the boardroom. We only put women in seats of power after the men screw up something.
Right.
So there's a lot of glass cliffs. So if they don't do the housework,
They're going to rest.
what are they going to? They're just going to rest?
They're gonna rest.
This is actually, Jessie is very tired today. She just wants to take a nap. We're just rushing through
Just
this.
thinking about that.
So your first, so you're trying to say that you did this in categories, Jesse. So your first one is
ruin
moms get fed
being
last.
Being a mom ruins your career is
Okay.
basically one of the
I like it.
exhaustingest themes
I like
of
it.
this
What
year.
else? What's your other exhausting theme?
Actually, Ari's entire career has gone down the drain since she had Miles Satterwhite.
No, that's not true. Not true at all.
Okay, this one,
Mm-hmm.
no surprise. Profits over our planet that's literally on fire.
Okay. Give us some examples.
BP, Shell, Exxon. This kicked off the year.
Yep.
BP, Shell, and Exxon suddenly backing off their climate promises. That has happened consistently throughout the year.
Yeah, it was part
Mammoth,
of. It seemed like it was part of the anti-woke, anti-ESG messaging, right? It allowed a lot of corporations to just completely back off all of their promises.
It's a great way to start.
Yeah.
Yes. Fast fashion's curious comeback. We have this whole fast fashion mess, which includes fast fashion has spawned a mountain of leftover clothes in the Chilean desert that's
I
so
love
massive it can be seen from space.
That might be. I mean, literally might be my favorite headline of the year. I mean, that headline tells every story you need to know.
Yep. Excessive online shopping is killing our whales.
Don't care about
And
that.
63 cruise ships owned by Carnival Corporation released more toxic sulfur gases than all the cars in Europe.
Oh, jeez. That's a bad one. Okay, so number two.
Just so we can float around, see
Also-
some places, party.
I'm pretty sure this
Get free
wasn't a
drinks.
study, but those same 63 cruise ships were responsible for more norovirus than every
Yeah,
car in
definitely.
Europe.
And Jesse,
also.
that's just
well,
one
Carnival.
of the. Yeah, that's just.
Carnival would argue there aren't that many cars in Europe.
That's not
Just
true.
saying.
Not
really?
true.
That's the argument.
There's tons of cars
There's not
in
that
Europe.
many
They're just very
cars.
small, Ari. So Jesse, so moms get fed last, profits over planet. What else do you have?
That's good, Jesse.
We have workplace discrimination, which is not
okay.
new.
No, it's
Very
not new.
exhausting.
Yeah, uh-huh. What do you
We
got
have
here?
an
Jesse's got
airline.
33
An airline
options
was
in here.
fined because it had rules about high heels and makeup for female cabin
Yeah.
crew.
Hey, 1950 cold.
We have the Wisconsin dairy industry was kind of exposed because they rely on undocumented immigrants, but they don't let them drive. So they can't get groceries.
Wow.
They can't, they're
Jesus.
expected to
It's terrible.
work and
Yeah.
dedicate their lives, but they can't actually do anything for themselves. Women could fill truck driver jobs. Companies won't let them. That was
Oh,
the
yeah,
big
why
one.
was that again?
Drive.
Why-
Yet again.
Yeah.
Jesse, do you remember why they wouldn't let them? Because they
Just
weren't
gonna rest.
safe?
Because they weren't safe.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
could not ensure that they
For their
wouldn't be
safety.
harassed
That's gotta
by
be-
the people they hire.
That story
That
says it
is-
all, yeah.
Wow.
And then
That's
we
a
also
good
have
one.
it infiltrating. I mean, sports. We've known this, but we had women's soccer players promised $30,000 to play in the World Cup. FIFA backed out.
Mm-hmm.
Men, college sports. Men make twice as much money as women under NCAA's new rules that allow college basketball players to cash in.
Right.
And then we got the opera, the
Yeah.
stark gender imbalance
yeah.
at the opera.
Oh, I remember
Beyond
Matt specifically
podiums,
not caring about this one.
Not just composers. So, anyways, we've got a whole bunch
Okay.
of
So,
workplace discrimination.
moms get fed last, profits over planet, workplace discrimination. This is great, exhausting stuff,
And we're
Jesse.
not
What
done.
else?
Tired
We
yet.
still have two more categories.
He's so
what else?
exhausted. He's like, go faster.
You said 5.
Yeah.
CEO misconduct.
Well, can I just say,
I mean-
Jesse, can I just say, I just checked the record. I said, let's go with top 5 for each category, meaning top 5 headlines
you didn't
for exhausting.
specify.
Okay, go ahead. It's okay.
But I referenced
Go
last
ahead.
year's show.
Sure.
Being new, I
It
referenced
doesn't
last
matter.
year's show.
It doesn't
and
matter.
We did
This is your category. Go ahead.
I ignored
CEO
everything Damien said
misconduct,
too.
Which
So,
surprisingly, in my head, I thought there was more here, but here are a couple. There's a CS Disco CEO Kiwi Camara gives up $110 million pay package after groping female employee,
Oh,
shoving
yeah.
meat in her face.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
And then the crypto CEO of Giving Tree, Sam Joel, steps down after misogynistic
Well,
rant. We covered that.
I
That was
wanna-
on LinkedIn.
I want to remind the listeners that the spreadsheet I sent around was only the stories that won the category during the year. It wasn't all the stories that didn't win. So Jesse, there are plenty of other CEO misconduct stories. These are just the winners.
Yeah,
I know.
There were a lot.
I
There are a
did
lot.
leaf through, but a lot of them were like pending lawsuit or expected to pay, and I'm like, that doesn't rile me up quite as much.
I mean, we non-winner was didn't BP's CEO Bernard Looney
Yes.
step down
Yes.
for because he lied to the board about like what he actually did at the workplace. It wasn't even necessarily that it was misconduct, but he was just like there's something shady.
Yeah.
Liar.
Yeah, big liar.
There
Big
was a
fat
lot of
liar.
lying going on this year. What else, Jesse?
All right, lastly, this felt very this year-esque, so I had to add it. AI oopsies.
AI oopsies.
Yeah, Levi says its AI-generated diverse models that caused huge backlash are not a substitute for action on diversity.
Remember that one,
but
yeah.
they were. I tried a site where AI matched me with someone based on my hotness rating. It's really messed up.
I don't
Wait, is
really
that the
get
headline
that
or is
one.
that you talking?
That's the headline.
I don't understand what you just
I
said.
wasn't able. I was rated so low. I wasn't able to try dating anyone.
Oh, so
This is
that's
Hot
how you
Chat
found your
3000.
husband. Okay, I now understand.
Hot chat.
I really
3000.
thought you had written that.
Yeah, that does seem like a headline.
No,
that you would have written.
that's a very Business Insider headline. Let's be fair.
It is.
Yeah.
It's Business Insider. And then Gen Z dating app Snack lets your AI trained avatar go on dates so you don't have to.
Right. I
Oh,
remember
no.
Oh, my
loving this
God.
Oh
one.
no, forget
I
it.
loved
And then we've
that
got a
one.
really vague open-ended one. Snapchat's AI could be the creepiest chatbot yet.
Okay, so
What
So
that
these
means.
are just like chatbots gone wrong or using AI because it's the craze and not really doing it correctly.
To
They're
quick-
faux pas.
to quickly wrap up Jesse's most exhaustingest of the year, she grouped them into 5 categories: moms get fed last, profits over planet, workplace discrimination, CEO misconduct, and AI oopsies, which I don't really understand. So I will ask all of our extremely fabulous pundits here, what do you think is the most exhaustingest category of the year?
I just love a couple of these headlines.
Go ahead, Ari. What do you love the most?
Well, first of all, that there's still high heels and makeup rules for airlines.
Well, we just
This year,
this week
Yeah.
we covered,
Wow.
Matt. This week at BP, BP designed new uniforms, and they were
British Air, BA.
I'm sorry, British Air. They were see-through. They were too see-through, and so they told women that they could only wear certain type of underwear because they were. So instead of actually making new uniforms that weren't see-through, they tried to restrict the what women could wear as underwear, and of course the unions fought back and said you cannot tell our workers what underwear to wear. So British Airways, I'm sorry, they decided to go against that. But this is still going on. I mean, especially in the airline industry, I have no idea why they're so interested in what the women wear there.
On the flip side, though, didn't FedEx this year remove some of their
the hair and
because
tattoos.
they were saying you
Tattoos.
couldn't
I think
have
that was last
tattoos
year
and-
maybe,
and
but yeah,
mohawks,
uh-huh.
but like it basically this highly correlates with who is looking for workers and is
How
totally
badly do
desperate.
you need
like
them?
we're willing to have discriminatory policies about what you wear when you're not desperate enough for workers, and as soon as it's like, oh shit, we have no one to drive our FedEx truck, then you're out there being like,
here.
you know what? Wear pants some days, whatever.
Bring
Who
your
cares?
tattoos over here.
Is
The
this
face tattoos, whatever.
Ari, is that your vote? Workplace discrimination?
Yeah, but mostly because of the truck drivers. They desperately need to fill some of those jobs, and then they're like, but never mind, we don't want to get sued
Yeah,
because we hire and train crappy people.
I remember we spent a lot of time on that story. It's probably one of the most shocking stories of the year, that
mind-blowing.
they couldn't fill these roles because they could not ensure the physical safety of the women driving
They
these
don't
trucks.
want to. They don't want to address
They don't-
the systemic problem.
Incredible. Really, that's an incredible story. Yeah. Okay, so Matt, you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, I'm going with profits over planet, actually. For the simple reason that as soon as, first of all, it's going to be the absolute hottest year on record. We had wildfires that ate most of Canada. We've had droughts. We've had floods. We've had the worst weather conditions in our history and the highest temperatures in the history of the planet. And as soon as it was expedient, every fossil fuel company announced their largest record profits ever, share buybacks. Oh, and P.S., those climate promises were really kind of like climate suggestions that we might have done, but now we're not going to do. And that's just and the heels of COP, where now everybody's celebrating somehow. We're celebrating. What are we celebrating? We're
We're
celebrating.
celebrating the 90,000 people who flew there.
Yeah, and like what they came out with was not a phase out of fossil fuels. We just joked that it was like a nudge, a gentle shuffle towards 2050, in which we might limit. I don't know. This one is exhausting to me.
Okay, so I can either create a tie for Jesse or break the tie.
Which will you choose?
Yeah, I gotta. Unfortunately, Jesse, I'm not gonna let you weigh in on your own category. I have got to agree with Matt on this one and go profits over plan.
Yes,
because
that is
because
correct.
let me add
That's
two.
correct.
Let me add two headlines that you missed that further this story, and that is one that we covered just recently: greedflation, corporate profiteering significantly boosted global prices, and the 100 largest low-wage employers have spent $341 billion on stock buybacks since 2020. So, those.
And look,
yeah.
If I'm honest here, putting Carnival Corporation in a category is always going to get my vote. I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they exist.
And Jesse, I'm sure you're happy with that choice. Profits over Planet, the most exhausting story of the year.
These were actually the two that I felt. I mean, workplace discrimination and profit.
Yeah.
But just so we're clear, Ari did lose.
Ari lost. Yep.
Ari was incorrect.
Moving on.
Speaking of
Damien,
losers,
come on.
Yeah. Speaking of losers, the great analyst Hole Matt Moscardi in. I mean, this is gonna kill me. I know. I almost didn't want him to do this
Matt
category this
Follow
year.
directions, though. I think.
I didn't do 5 though.
So he followed
Matt, you're in here with
some
Ass
directions.
Holiest of the Year, always really the most featured, celebrated category of the week. So
Celebrated by no one.
you have a lot to cover here. I mean,
He's gonna really rile
we
us
could
up.
do 400 shows based on the assholes of the year. So I don't know how you're going to do this one.
We could
One
do
for
assholes
each
of
day.
the day. Yeah, 365 assholes.
Oh my gosh! Next year in 25 days of holidays,
We have a
should
holiday
have assholes.
calendar.
an advent calendar of
Of assholes. Ooh, I like that. All right, so assholes to the year. First, I want to start off with some stats because
Everybody loves stats.
I made a spreadsheet. Damien pulled every headline that won, and he had to do some work on mine because I tend to choose like meta assholes, not like just
Yeah.
a person. It's like categories of assholes. There were 41 weeks to choose from. 3 or 4 were removed because I didn't have any specific asshole. In fact, 1 week the asshole was everything. That was actually
I like that
in
one the most.
spreadsheet. Everything. And 2 were removed for vacation purpurposes.
Yeah, because
I
we were
was
mad that
gone.
you went to the beach in Hawaii and we were upset. at
Yeah,
you.
I was in Hawaii
Yeah.
visiting my in-laws.
or Mark Zuckerberg.
I
Sam
categorized
Altman.
every like Jesse did. I categorized my assholes, but I did it in the spreadsheet and I counted them. The number one, the top category for the year, 11 out of the 41 weeks was hating women, gays, and Jews.
Oh.
That was the top category of assholes.
That's
It was
terrible.
somebody
That's like- yeah.
who was doing something around that. The top protagonist of the year was the idiot GOP.
So you talk about the anti-woke, anti-ESG wars.
The whole Republican war against ESG and sort of the outliers around that. The second protagonist of the year was actually idiot investors. Mostly,
Okay.
I spent a lot of time angry at investors for doing something stupid.
Adam
or-
Newman lovers.
Between the Adam Newman lovers and
Musk
the
lovers.
ISS, like saying that JB Straubel on the Tesla board, who's Musk's old friend, is fine, but Robin Denholm is not fine.
Right.
Like the inconsistencies with that. The obvious individual that stood out was Musk himself.
Of course.
And the theme of the year was money wins versus everything. So
Okay, so that kind of goes with Jesse's
Similar, yeah.
exhaustingness of the
Very
year.
similar.
Profits over Planet. Yep.
Here are your options,
Okay.
and there's only 4. I didn't do 5 because I don't care about Damien's instructions. Number 1, Mark Andreessen and the Techno Optimists.
Okay.
That sounds like a
remind
musical.
us.
Coming to Broadway in 2024.
Yeah, remind us about his glorious proclamation earlier. This fall, right? This fall.
This fall, Mark Andreessen wrote the Techno Optimist Manifesto, in which he laid out the lists of enemies of, basically progress, and of course the enemies were included ethics. And that was actually he listed as one of the enemies.
He's so threatened by ethics.
And corporate responsibility, sustainability, ESG. He named all those things as enemies. This is the same person whose optimistic outlook on the world included the largest ever investment his fund has ever made in Adam Newman, the fail up WeWork ex-founder. But I pulled for this. This is new. I pulled some of his optimistic investments this year.
Okay.
They include, this is just this year, Andreessen Horowitz invested in Castilian,
Yeah.
something like that, which is an unmanned defense drone company.
And by defense, they mean drones that can shoot at things.
Yeah, something that hovers above you and blows you
Yeah,
up.
it's not an
without
actual
a person
shield.
involved.
It's not a shield. Isn't it clever how they've used the word defense? Yeah. The defense industry.
drones.
Yeah, it really means
Yeah.
weapons.
Blue Force Technologies, which is killer AI
Oh,
drones.
some more killing. Okay.
Yeah, which was acquired by Anduril, which was another one of their big investments. Anduril, if you don't know that term,
No, I don't.
Anduril, it's from The Lord of the Rings, and it's one of the Peter Thiel like Palantir. That's a Lord of the Rings term. Like,
Wow.
But Matt, does it
Peter
kill?
Thiel
Do they
is
kill people
man-boying
though?
everywhere? Yeah, obviously it kills people.
Okay.
They are AI drones and border monitoring.
Border
So
monitoring is code for a weapon to shoot things that try to cross borders, right?
the founder. Well, these are like things that sit on the top of a tower and then alert everyone to go
Alert
kill
people
someone
with guns
crossing a border.
Yeah.
Anduril was founded by Palmer Luckey. Now, I don't know if you remember Palmer Luckey. He was the founder of the Oculus Rift, the headset that got bought by Zuckerberg.
Okay.
Palmer once built a VR headset that actually killed the wearer if they died in the video game.
Wait,
As
what?
in he built in small explosive charges into it.
what are you
they never
talking about?
obviously this
You're
wasn't about
lying.
this wasn't about like a commercial thing.
a dumb
But he
idea.
said he was really fascinated by the idea of the virtual world and how
That's what he was fascinated
you should
by?
feel like the reality of the virtual world. So
What a dumb-
So he took
was
your
actually-
your game controller rumbling and like shaking and took it all the way to
into
killing you.
explosive charges. Yes.
What a horrible person.
And
yeah.
Palmer Luckey was excommunicated from Oculus Rift and Meta when he funded Donald Trump after Donald Trump said horrible things about closing the border. He funded like a billboard that said "Send Hillary to jail," and was like one of those guys. And then he got excommunicated. He's been effectively martyred by the right for it. This is why they discriminate against us.
Shockingly,
Andreessen
Matt, he's another tech bro college dropout.
I
Yeah.
I
Oh, wow.
can't even contain my shock.
Yeah.
OpenAI and I said Adam Newman. Those are the investments. So Mark
Okay.
Andreessen telling us what our future
Yeah,
should
it's
look
tough,
like,
Jesse,
and it looks
isn't
like
it?
unmanned defense drones that shoot you and VR goggles that
move,
blow up.
Come on,
your
move
face.
on quickly. You're killing us already.
Number two.
Number two. Yeah.
Altman, Zuck, and Musk, the
Oh.
AI tech
trio?
bros. There they are.
the
Yeah.
three tech
The
brothers.
trifecta. Zuckerberg, these were the headlines that we pulled. Zuckerberg says people spend 24% more time on Instagram after Meta launched AI-powered Reels.
Oh, I know that for a
Wow.
fact. Yeah, I see that in action in my house, unfortunately.
Wow.
OpenAI has quietly changed its core values. In fact,
Yep.
this happened before the whole OpenAI drama. We covered this.
Right.
It wasn't covered really anywhere else. It was
Right.
we saw it in one article on it, and we talked about it here. They changed their core values,
which we made fun of.
which we made fun of, and then they fired the CEO for changing the values of OpenAI,
Yeah.
and now the new values won.
for basically disobeying the mission of the company. The
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's the foreshadowing, though.
Here's one that
Crazy.
Jesse missed about AI. AI chatbot will replace human helpline workers at National Eating Disorder Association.
Right.
Right.
I forgot about that.
And that AI bot was working with people and telling them that they
Yeah,
needed
to go on a diet.
to go on a diet.
Yeah.
It suggested that they could go on a diet. And Twitter running ads for Disney, Microsoft, and the NBA next to neo-Nazi propaganda. Effectively, these three dudes are all of our attention. And our attention is increasingly about being driven by what AI thinks, and AI is a racist hellhole.
I will say congratulations to Mark Zuckerberg. He remained pretty quiet this year. Sam Altman and Elon Musk basically stole
for the
every
cage
headline,
fight.
except for the.
Well, there was
but
the
the cage
cage
fight was
fight.
Elon Musk's fault.
that was Musk trying.
Yeah, that was
yeah,
all
but
Musk.
he wasn't backing down with his
True.
new cage fight bod.
Well, because he was legitimately training on his own. I mean, I think that Musk brought him into that stupid conversation, but the Mark
Wow, you're
Zuckerberg.
defending
That's
him.
yeah, okay. All right, moving on, Matt.
He was quiet up until the point when there was a report about how they knew that teens and underage
Yeah.
kids were using
I'm just-
Instagram to fight despite the fact that they said they weren't.
I'm just saying he's done some good hiding this year.
Yeah.
What else you
So
got?
kudos to Mark.
Probably in Hawaii.
Number three, your number third
number three.
asshole group. Yeah.
ISS Glass Lewis in the investor industrial complex. These are the people. These are the reason why we have a 96% average vote for directors at public boards, despite Norfolk Southern, their board of directors, okaying basically every safety shortcut. Their head of the safety committee added safety as a skill in their skills matrix the year before he became the head of the safety committee.
Right.
Prior to that, he had no skill in it. State Street adding an option and pass-through voting that just fully backs corporate boards.
Right.
Yeah, that was bananas.
Tesla's board of directors has done zero
Nothing.
things about Musk, and investors all say vote for them.
Right.
And then you just sent a story around this morning about the Southwest. Last year, Southwest board of directors were involved in the biggest meltdown in the
2022 Christmas
airline industry.
Yep.
Their annual meeting was held in May of this year, and approximately 0 directors lost a vote even after that happened. So
Yep.
there is zero accountability if you're a director. It is the best job you can possibly have. Become the director of a company, people. That's what you
Nothing
should do.
happens to you.
Nothing will happen to you, no matter how bad your
Well,
company does.
I think that 0.2% of the universe that does get removed would quibble with you, Matt.
Yeah, they would be really upset that I just said that. And number 4, the anti-woke.
Oh,
You're going to have to choose, because we had Anheuser-Busch this year. We had the Bud Light debacle. We had Kid Rock. We had Musk saying cisgender and cis are slurs
Oh my
on
God.
Twitter. We had the Republican attorney generals warning U.S. companies about discriminating against white people by having DEI initiatives. We have Ed Blum, the conservative activist who killed affirmative action. He sued a black-run venture capital fund with almost like we're talking about no real assets under management, a small fund, and all they did was work with black women founders. That was their target focus. He sued them, saying that they were effectively contravening discrimination laws. And Adidas' CEO saying Kanye West didn't really mean those anti-Semitic remarks and isn't a bad person.
yeah. So, and let's not forget that this was the year started with the Supreme Court rolling back rules on colleges, affirmative action
Right.
rules
Right.
at colleges.
That
and
was
then,
Ed
and then the
Blum.
anti-DEI movement jumped onto that. I will say that we covered a headline in the summer that might have actually kind of slowed down the anti-woke movement, and that was this one. After Chick-fil-A ruffles far right feathers, Fox News asks if the culture war has gone too far. So remember there was that.
One of the things we did cover as a joke multiple times over the course of the year was when the sort of far right anti-woke movement got angry at something that happened like
9
5
years
years
ago,
ago.
yeah.
Like they just noticed that Chick-fil-A had a chief DEI officer that they hired in 2019.
Yeah.
They were upset about they're upset about all sorts of stuff that they just realized
How could
existed.
you do this 8 years ago?
And then you combine
It's like they weren't paying
you combine
attention.
that with the fact that Ron DeSantis could not define what woke is, and then finally the year ending with Kid Rock basically saying, "Whoops, I didn't realize that people would lose their jobs because we're crying over Bud Light here." So
And actually, you can see the sort of boredom with this narrative with Vivek, who's on this show this year. Vivek Ramaswamy, the Ramaswamy tsunami.
who?
Oh no.
That happened early this year. He
was right.
He launches his presidential campaign on our show, and by on our show I mean soon after he was on our show.
Yeah.
And he launched it on the anti-woke.
In fact, that was one of my
that.
predictions that came true. I think I predicted that he would run for president. No,
You predicted,
I predicted everything.
Yeah.
All right, so to wrap up, and I'll ask you all to vote on Assholiest of the Year: Mark Andreessen and the Techno Optimists.
It's hard.
Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, all the AI tech bros, ISS, Glass Lewis, the investor industrial complex, and finally the anti-woke, anti-ESG gang, all hating on women, gays, and Jews.
Hating everything.
I mean, you can't go wrong with any of these choices. Let's be fair.
Right. I'll go first.
Go ahead, Ari.
Well, Mark Andreessen and the tech bros, I feel like that is just one, and they are definitely ruining our lives. But who can do something about it?
Who?
And doesn't do anything?
Who?
All the investors, man.
Oh, look at
So that's my vote.
you. I was not expecting that. Ari, so
That's
Ari
Oh.
my vote.
voting for investors doing nothing. Jesse, you have a vote here?
Anti-woke, hating women, gays, and Jews.
I mean, jeez, Matt, this is tough, Matt. I might have to just create a tie for you because it's hard to say that this is not the year of the anti-woke, right? I mean, the anti-woke ESG.
Didn't it feel like that last year, though?
No, I thought in earnest.
I felt like that last
I thought in
year.
earnest it happened this year, right? Mike Pence put out a bunch of ads talking about anti-ESG. Was this not the first year that
was this year,
anti-ESG became a thing? And the congressional hearings?
It started at the end of last year, but we did have the ESG hearings in July, which amounted to basically a whole lot of nothing.
Anti-BlackRock was this year, right? Anti-Larry Fink all happened this year.
It was a big move this year, but towards the end of last year, I mean, it was
all
building
the signs
on,
were there last year because you predicted that's what's going to happen this year.
I mean, remember, DeSantis hadn't announced that he was running for president until like May, like April, May, or June or something like that. So he was busy legislating this stuff at the end of last year and into the beginning of this year.
Here's what I'm gonna do, Matt. I'm gonna combine the first two. I'm gonna call them the tech bro enablers along with the AI tech bros. So I'm gonna put all that in one category. I'm gonna vote for that. So you can break the tie between
the investors.
Okay, it's over.
I mean, look, the fact is, when ESG sort of started as a data set, as a concept, when social responsibility happened in investments at all, they all pointed at the investors and said, those are the levers. Those are the people with all the money who are basically the owners of these companies. They have the power to make change if they want to make change. And if we show them the data, they might do something different. That was like the whole premise. And it kind of worked in some ways. And it also has proven to be investors don't care about anything at all except what the stock price was yesterday. I don't care if every investor, and this like hurts to say because Free Flow Analytics has a data set around like we're trying to sell to investors. But if every investor looked at the companies and said, are they objectively doing well? Are the people good at their jobs? Right. Are we holding people accountable? The answer would uniformly be no. When 0.2% of directors in the entire world get voted out. 0.2%.
And I'll tell you one pattern.
They just find the best people.
I'll tell you
anybody.
I'll tell you a couple of patterns that are emerging that we're seeing on our new show, The Proxy Countdown. One is that you will see investors getting mad at pay policies, right? Sometimes they'll get mad to the tune of 70% of shareholders will vote against pay, which is pretty remarkable. But that does not translate over to directors. They don't blame the directors. Right. They don't blame the compensation committee for that. They think these pay policies just exist. They come out of nowhere, right? They drop from a stork. The other thing we see is that we do see investors getting angry about share price, right? They don't like it when the share price goes down, but again, they refuse to hold the board accountable for that. They
never do.
It's never the people's fault.
It's not, there's always an excuse why it's not the people. And frankly, it's the fact that the investors have relationships with these boards, as in they talk to them, they know their names, they know who they are, is almost problematic because there's a social stigma against accountability. And that's not what investing is supposed to be. Everywhere else in investing, they say, show me the data. Show me like we're objective about our decisions. We're making efficient market hypothesis, and we're making decisions based on like all of this information that we have. We're not emotional about our stock, and yet the people that they actually have to hire to run these companies, they are totally emotional about and worried about the social stigma. It's bullshit. Well, and that's got to end. I
will say, to their credit, they're very good on LinkedIn at talking about solving world issues.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
They just don't want to hold companies accountable for anything that they do. Okay, moving on to Goodliest of the Year with the great Ari, the Data Queen. Is that who you are? Yeah, the Data Queen. Come on, Ari.
That is me.
Just let the music get you pumped again.
That is me.
All right, now I got to stop the music. That was definitely.
We're going to start out with one of my favorite categories that just kept on giving all year long. And I think it started last year, but I may be wrong. I don't know. I called it Year of the Workers' Rights
Finally.
Part 2.
Finally, all right.
Wait, why is it part 2?
Because I think Part 1 was last year.
Oh,
but I
forget
may
about
be
last
wrong.
year. Let's talk about 2023. Come on.
2023, fine. Part 1. UAW goes on strike against GM, Ford, and Stellantis. I
And
want to
wins.
remind everyone.
And wins.
And wins. I want to remind everyone that this is remarkable because it was the first time they had done it in this manner. Like, gone against all three at different plants, and you don't know who's next. It was cool.
It was incredible. Not only that, but it was like it was staggered throughout, right? Like
Right.
You didn't know when. Suddenly, it was like a plant
When it was
in
gonna- you were gonna
Texas.
hit
It was
next.
incredible. Yeah, genius.
I know. So great. The strategy behind it, loved it. Other workers that went on strike, WGA, they got
Writers
a new deal.
Guild. Yep. I think Hollywood. Yep.
Yep, Hollywood writers, and then the Hollywood actors also went on strike.
And the directors.
U.S. healthcare workers walked off the job. There were 27 strikes in 2023 by healthcare workers.
Okay.
One of them being the largest healthcare worker strike involving 70,000 workers. So
That sounds
that's
right.
a lot. UPS workers approved massive new labor
Incredible
deal.
new deal. Incredible. Right? The salary's up to 120,000, right, for UPS delivery drivers?
So, we keep buying crap. We should pay them accordingly.
Yes.
Even though this did not happen in the U.S., Tesla and the Nordic Solidarity, which we talked about last week a little bit, Danish Union joined in on the strike. Norway Union also joined in.
Yeah.
And they were supported by even, post office workers as a solidarity strike in Sweden, which is great.
We know already that the UAW is going to go after Tesla here in America.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, with their awesome strategy person. What's the guy of
Sean
Sean
Fain.
Fain.
Sean
Yeah.
Fain. My new idol, I guess.
Yeah.
And the labor board ruled that companies can't enforce silence for severance pay. So I don't know. There's just a lot of really good
Okay.
stuff going
So
on around
first, Year of the Workers, right?
labor. Yup.
What else?
David versus Oily Goliath.
Okay.
I
What
know
the hell
we
is
have
that?
a lot of annoying headlines about oil companies, but
Okay.
these are the ones that I liked for the future.
Mm-hmm.
OnlyFans billboards in London replaced with OilyFans, raising awareness of BP
That's a
CEOs
bad
pay
joke.
AA.
Yeah. Mhm.
But this is the whole category for you. It's basically you loved that billboard so much.
I know.
That's a
exactly.
that's a
clever.
lame joke. Oily fans.
I thought it's clever.
That is great. New California laws mandate climate disclosures for both private and public companies.
That's right.
That's a big deal.
The maybe next president Gavin Newsom. There's still rumors that Biden will step down and Gavin Newsom will run. Who knows?
Youth environmentalists bring Montana climate case to trial
Yes.
after 12 years.
That's awesome.
One of the
Seeking
biggest
to
stories of
set
the year
precedent.
by far. Mm-hmm.
CalSTRS escalates efforts to hold global companies accountable for not adequately disclosing climate change risks. And they actually voted against 2,000 boards of directors.
The entire
in proxy
boards?
season
The entire
Yes.
boards?
2023.
Okay. So Matt, there's an investor that did something.
Well, it's basically California against everybody.
Okay,
Well,
that's
California,
true.
Montana.
That's true. Well, the kids in Montana. Yeah.
The kids, right. Those kids may not grow up to be adults that actually can do something. But
What else?
Number
All right.
three.
Number 3.
absurdity. I just loved some really absurd headlines this year.
What,
These were
give us
good.
some examples.
We started out with sushi terrorism. It's
Okay.
spreading as pranksters lick food and utensils in Japan's conveyor belt restaurant.
Why do you
Guess
love
where
that
I
so
did
much,
you
Ari?
eat?
When I was in Japan, no conveyor belts.
I was gonna just.
Ari, why do you
ask
like that?
Zero.
Why is that so important to you?
Because it's just, look at these people.
You
going
like-
around licking stuff.
You
Come
like
on.
the idea of people licking food in restaurants? This tickles
It's
you?
just it's so absurd to me that
Okay,
people are
just sounds
just
gross.
licking
The
Just
stuff.
sounds
instinct when you
gross.
see like a plate of something going by, and
just
you're
wanna
like,
lick it.
Yeah. like imagine
Just
that
wanna lick it.
instinct.
I don't understand
Weird.
why you like that one. What else you got?
Disney blocks Ron DeSantis' Florida power play with a royal family.
Yes,
clause.
this is one of my
Love
favorite
it.
stories of the year.
That was so random.
Yeah.
So
We
genius.
love it. We love it.
And then the way this headline read: this airline wants you to travel across the world without clothes.
Wait, what was that one again?
That was
Naked traveling.
that was the one where they told you to wear whatever you were wearing, but not pack anything.
And,
Yep.
and,
They
then,
were-
and then what? They
You
would
could-
set you up with clothes at your destination?
Yeah.
rental
Okay.
wardrobe.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm down
You
for
can
that.
rent-
I'm with that one.
You can rent clothing.
I like that one.
This is a creative effort, I might say, of saving, CO2, saving fuel because it's a lighter load. And AI Jesus shows a
Yeah.
fascinating refashioning of the biblical prophet for the modern
Boo.
era.
I don't like that one.
Oh, please. AI Jesus weighed in heavy this morning.
Matt spent so much time with AI Jesus.
I asked him questions about why so few board of directors were voted out, and AI Jesus had an answer about Corinthians.
Yeah,
It was
where's my
great.
picture?
All right. Well,
It sent us a Bible verse. Then the first instance that I noticed of the glass defense.
the glass
Yeah, this is your
defense.
term.
Okay, this is your
Yep.
next category, the glass defense. What is that?
Yes, Nikola founder Trevor Milton may be a convicted fraudster, but he wasn't greedy or mean-spirited and not as bad as Elizabeth Holmes.
Right, right. Well, this is
His
kind of
lawyers
like
say.
this is kind of like Mark Zuckerberg's great China defense, right? He's always like, well, you can control me, but you really should be worried about China.
No, I like though that like Trevor Milton looked for the how many female founders are there in all of companies that are big enough, much less how many commit fraud. Trevor Milton just pointed to the one.
Mean
It was like
spirited.
she was shrill.
She's mean.
She was a shrill
And not
jerk.
for-
She's
and
I'm not
greedy.
that. Yeah.
She's greedy.
And let's not forget that the true story at that company, Matt, to echo some of your complaints earlier, was that the investors and board did absolutely nothing.
Zero things.
And they all pretty much knew that it was a train wreck and a disaster. They did nothing to control her.
And last but not least, a little bit of justice.
Okay, what kind of justice?
FTX
We'll be the judge of that.
founder, as Sam Bankman-Fried, is found guilty of all
Right,
charges,
right. Yes.
including
Hasn't been
fraud.
sentenced yet, right? Has not been sentenced yet.
Has not been.
Why does it take
sentenced
so
yet.
long? Just sentence
I don't
him.
know.
Who cares? Yep. What else?
Tucker Carlson ousted at Fox News following
Oh,
network's
yeah.
$787
That was a good
million
one.
settlement.
I was
That was
happy
a
about
good
that.
one.
Almost $1 billion.
I think that precipitated Rupert stepping down. Keith.
Maybe he's also 145 years old, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
has
like
not died yet.
Tucker gets fired. They get sued. They lose. They settle. They fire Tucker, and then he divorces his 12th wife, doesn't he?
That's
like
right.
soon
Or no,
thereafter?
He has a young
He
wife.
didn't marry
He didn't marry her
or something.
because he found her to be too biblical, I think.
And now he's stepped down from other than owning the Class B shares, he stepped down.
and he launched his
day-to-day.
own thing on like Twitter or whatever. But
Tucker
Tucker
we
did.
haven't
No,
heard
No, he's just
anything
no.
really
His new
lately.
company
Just
just
started his
started
own
last
streaming.
week. Yeah, last week.
Lord.
Yeah, but he was doing it on Twitter for a while and no one cared. And
but then he couldn't because he's still, he was still being paid by Fox.
well, he's going to get sued by Fox if they want to.
So
It's
All
a
right.
mess for him.
So the goodlies of the
That's-
year to wrap up. Ari picked Year of the Workers, David versus Oily Goliath, Absurdity, The Glass Defense, and Justice. Anybody?
Justice.
I could go first.
Go ahead,
this
Jesse.
time.
Jesse, the Money Whisperer.
Year of the Workers' Riots.
Seems like a
I
good
loved-
choice
I loved
there.
those headlines. That
Matt?
was fun for a while,
Yeah.
for many weeks.
it kept on giving.
I'm going to throw you for a loop here.
Yep.
I cannot get over the goodliest of the millennia
Uh-huh.
might be Disney
Sushi
blocks
Town.
Ron DeSantis
Yeah.
power play with the royal family
Royal
clause
Family.
is just so great. It's
Very
just
creative.
so absurdly great
Yeah.
that I
Remind
I'm
people
going with
what that was exactly.
So they basically say in the contract, it's effectively using the life of a British royal as a time period in a contract. So Disney said they would have full, rights and jurisdiction over, these operations until the death of King Charles's third grandson.
Last living descendant.
Plus 1 day, right? Like it was like something like that. It's such an absurd thing to write in there, and I feel like it's just a troll, and
And
I
they
love it.
snuck it in there, right?
They did they did all the things they were supposed to do. It's just that no one was paying
Right.
attention.
Right.
So they woke up and realized that this little party that Ron DeSantis put together to control Disney had no power over Disney at the end. They had like limited powers, and then they went and sued them. And it was great. It just made my day, made my year.
I will. This one seems easy, Ari. I mean, based on your enthusiasm throughout the year, and your enthusiasm today, and just listing it first, I think the year of the workers' rights is really the win here. And no surprise, I'm going to vote for that. So that's the goodliest of the year of workers' rights, including big wins at the United Auto Workers Union there, and UPS workers. They didn't even go on strike at UPS, right? They threatened.
They threatened, but honestly, they got air conditioners. That's all.
Right.
So that's the goodliest of the year. This brings us to the story of the year. Oh God, I don't know how we're gonna do this.
We've been waiting for this.
That's me. I'm a little. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have you vote between what we've already picked. That would be profits over planet. The assholiest would be investors that don't do anything. The goodliest would be the year of the workers' rights. I'm going to remind you, I'm going to also list, here's some headlines I think that maybe we left out that we didn't talk about. No one mentioned the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, SVB.
I mean, that was like tech bro instigated bank run.
Still no one mentioned that one.
And investors... And another thing, that's investors who did nothing because,
that's
the
true.
board, there was a fucking winery executive on the risk committee of the board.
And it showed, another harm of social media, right? Because that was basically orchestrated by panic on social media, right?
On Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter.
It was like a WhatsApp chain again with Silicon Valley tech bros and Twitter people all lamenting, and the investors who did nothing for years. I don't know. That one was dumb.
No one mentioned the fact that the Target CEO, Brian Cornell, is that his name? Brian Cornell? I should know this.
Sure.
He announced that DEI has fueled much of our growth over the last 9 years. I like that one. There was a grocery chain in Europe, Carrefour, that put shrinkflation price warnings on food to shame the brands that were ripping off customers. I like that one.
We did like that.
No one mentioned that the fact that the COP28 was run by an oil CEO.
It was. Yeah, it was that.
This one, Matt, that I wish that you had covered. You left this one out. Former BlackRock executive Tariq Fancy said many ESG experts are underqualified.
Yeah, says a guy who had zero qualifications to be an ESG expert.
I like your shirt today, Matt.
Yeah,
I love it.
Ironic.
I love this
ESG
one.
expert.
I love that Comcast actually complained to the FCC that listing all of its monthly fees was too hard.
That's pathetic.
And finally, we left out the ultimate glass cliff hire that we've ever heard of, and that's the CEO Linda Yaccarino over there at Twitter.
God.
Then
what a train wreck.
And then finally, I'll add one more for your consideration, and that is our platform launch, which happened in June.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is why I'm including this one, because I'm gonna call the subheading here, know the people who run your companies. And here's some headlines that back this up that I like the most. Well, first of all, Charlie Munger died like a few months ago, right?
That's
one of our oldest directors. Know your people. You covered this one, Matt, but the Southwest CEO just vowed that last year's Christmas meltdown will never happen again. So you should know your board over there at Southwest CEO. You covered Norfolk Southern, too. How about this one? Remember Walgreens CEO Roz Brewer stepped down?
Yeah.
But we were the only ones to cover the fact that Roz Brewer had no power or influence over there. It was actually
all Stefano Pacina.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Stefano Pacina, whose wife is actually the CEO over there at Walgreens, and he controls all the power over there. We covered these stories a lot over the year. All the glass cliffiness going on at all the major U.S. news organizations, all the cable news outlets, all the U.S. news organizations are run by women now. Mm-hmm. How about this one? Vince McMahon listed as a risk factor in an SEC filing.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then two of my favorites that we left out, these are some of the all-time classics. At O'Reilly Automotive, we covered the fact that all the white directors, that's 6 out of the 10 directors, all the white dudes at O'Reilly Automotive were all wearing identical orange dress shirts, right?
Yeah, but not the women.
Not the women or people of color. And finally, probably my favorite story of the year.
So good.
My favorite story of the year, and this is why you should know your people and why you should celebrate our platform launch. Verizon CEO Hans Vestberg has been tracking his mood from 1 out of 10 in a spreadsheet every day since 2009. And Hans, if you're listening, we want access to that spreadsheet. We'll put it right up on our platform.
Please.
So there's a bunch of nonsense there for all of you to consider for story of the year.
We didn't even talk about Qantas, which we covered for like a month.
I was going to add
the absurdity of Qantas.
I was going to add Qantas. So the story over there at Qantas is that the Qantas was just a horrible company over there in Australia. Excuse the French, they shat the bed in every direction possible.
Ooh,
and
such language.
The newly appointed CEO, a woman, a Glasscliff CEO, she apologized for everyone's horrible behavior. So there's a bunch going on here for story of the year. So I don't know who wants to weigh in here first, what they think is the ultimate here.
So let's just summarize. Exhaustingest was Profits Over Planet. Assholiest was ISS.
Investors doing nothing.
Investors doing nothing. And the Year of Workers' Rights are your 3 big possible stories of the year. And then any of these that Damien just said
including
that we left out.
Including our company, our platform launch that happened in June, I believe. Yeah.
I would love to say that our company was the story of the year, but 0 people care that our company exists or does what it does. So it's hard to go with that one. Wow. I forgot about Tariq Fancy saying ESG experts were underqualified.
You spent like 30 minutes of a show talking about Tariq Fancy.
It drove me bananas.
And Matt, this is
a guy who's never gotten a data point in his life.
And this is an important one because after weeks and weeks of covering anti-ESG and anti-woke, we realized the pattern, and the pattern is that these people were all targeting women and people of color, right? And I think the subtext here is that the ESG experts that he's referring to, by and large, are women, right? I mean, the sustainability industry, ESG industry, it's a lot of women. I mean, I think that's the subtext here, but maybe that's just me.
I know who I'm going for, though.
Yeah, go ahead, Ari.
Because I want this to happen everywhere. Vince McMahon being listed as a risk factor.
As the story of the year.
Well,
so that is the essence of what I want this world to become.
But I'm going to take a little bit of control here. What she's voting for is us. She's voting for free float. Know the people who run your companies, because that's what this is all about, right, Ari? Yes. The answer is yes. So that's her vote.
And no story just makes that so clear to me as that one.
Jesse.
Tesla's board needs to do this with Elon Musk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we should know the name of every person on Tesla's board who hasn't voted out Musk.
Absolutely.
I mean,
his brother.
I mean, note that I didn't even make Bill. I didn't make Bill Ackman asshole of the year, although arguably he could have been. I just thought that was too much.
Easily.
Jesse,
recency
who
bias.
are you going with here?
All right.
We didn't even mention the wildfires in Maui and Hawaiian Electric. There was so much shit.
So much.
All right.
Matt is their CEO, and he goes on vacations in Hawaii with all the other CEOs.
Yeah.
He's bumping fists.
I sleep in a twin bed at my in-laws' house,
Like
just
that's
like
bad?
Mark Zuckerberg,
Like that's
just like
bad?
Zuck does.
All right, I am going to keep it exciting and vote for assholiest, ISS Glass Lewis, and the
Wow.
Investor Industrial Complex.
So again, both of you really sticking to the theme of our
Yes.
company, right? Like
Yes,
knowing who
of
really, no,
course.
seriously, knowing who the people are who run your companies, right? Putting the
Yes.
people
This is
back
why I
into
show
the
up
market.
to work every day, Damien.
That's right.
I mean,
Don't make
I'm
me
gonna
bu-
vote.
don't make me
I'm gonna
break
vote
any
for the same
ties.
thing. No, I'm going to vote for the same thing. It is.
He's voting for his own category.
Of course he is.
Oh, yeah, of course I am. Why would I not vote for my
It's Matt
category?
Muscardi.
Yeah.
Come on.
Look,
He's our analyst hole.
Look, the fact is, we just spent 3 weeks
Spewing facts.
manically talking about OpenAI and how every other pundit was saying that this was a total corporate governance fuck up and the board
Yep.
should be fired. And prior to this, you couldn't name a single board member.
Right.
You didn't know any of their names. And the only two people fired who resigned were the women.
Yep.
Right? Like the culmination of all of this shit from this year was effectively that moment. It is... the money wins. It is, we don't know who the board members are until it's too late. And when it's all said and done, blame the women, people of color, and Jews, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's and then investors do nothing about it. I think that's the winner.
Well, I'm going to happily agree with everybody. Not that my vote matters here, but we all basically voted for the same thing, which is knowing the people who run your company. That's the story of the year, right? Because they're not being held accountable. We can help you hold them accountable.
That makes me tired.
But the story of the year is that investors just don't seem to care in the right direction. Is that the story of the year? It's kind of
They don't even ask. No one asks until it's too late. But let's. Do we have?
Yes.
Very backwards.
We
looking.
have. We're not
I
going
need
to
a
do.
nap.
We're not going to do predictions this week. We're going to have our 2024 predictions show coming up right after the New Year's. But let's do one final category for the show. That is who won the year. That's a big one. Who won the year?
Yeah,
I can go
I don't know.
first because
Fine.
mine's quick.
Go.
And this is riding your coattails, Ari. My winner is actually the man that you just called your new hero, and that's Sean Fain at the United Auto Workers. Because not only was it a
Huge
strategic,
fangirl.
not only was it a strategic victory,
Get him
which
on the podcast.
that we can all. I've tried. I'm going to try again. Not only was it a strategic victory that we can all applaud, but he did something else. One is he made labor action cool again. He made it interesting, and two,
Should we get Red Hat saying that?
he used.
Make labor cool.
He used old-fashioned ESG data to prove his point. He highlighted CEO worker pay ratio in a way that
Yep.
nobody has ever done successfully
And he
before.
just hounded that message.
Yeah, so I thought it was brilliant. So that's my winner. Go ahead, Ari.
I don't know. Well, okay, I do agree with you, but also Sam Altman, man. How?
I mean, it's a good choice, right? It's a good choice.
He's got all the. I don't want to call them evil of the world behind him, but like
Mm-hmm.
he does.
Yeah, we didn't. And
He's
Ari,
pull.
we didn't go deep into this on this show for a reason because it's OpenAI is technically not a publicly traded company. It's technically not in our purview.
Now has Microsoft as a fly on the wall
Right.
to make sure that nobody messes with him.
But as far as
That's true.
headlines go over the year, there are only two people that dominated it, and it's definitely either Sam Altman or Elon Musk. They dominated business news headlines, absolutely.
Jesse, do you want to go next? Because mine is long and yours is very, very short.
And we all know. Can I just say, without looking, I think we all know what Jesse's going to pick.
yeah, there's only one
I
possible.
chose it to annoy
No, but
everyone
I think
but Ari.
it's a
not
good
annoyed.
choice. But I
But-
think it's a
Do
good
it.
choice too, though. I think it makes sense.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
No,
She did.
Travis
She
Kelce.
won.
Oh.
They both did. We could
No.
put them
They're
both. The power
love
couple.
one.
How did Travis win?
Love won.
Well, I'm actually.
Love wins.
I
we don't want to
can't-
make them sick.
I'm really sad for Beyonce, who also she
And Barbie.
She sub won, I guess,
Yeah.
in Barbie too.
You're really
These are
sad for those
sub-winners, but-
other
No, but-
No,
highly
I'm
But
not
successful
sad for
capitalistic enterprises.
Beyonce was already a billionaire. Taylor Swift
This
broke
is-
into billionaire
Yeah. Oh,
territory.
Well, thank God.
And I think Mattel was already a billionaire too. Yeah.
My winner of the year is boards of directors.
Why?
They
Like
100%.
in general?
If you are on the board of a publicly traded company, you are by
Cush
definition
life.
winning.
Yeah.
You are winning
Free
every single
bagels,
minute of every
Job
single
security.
day. Here's some stats to
All
prove
your
that you're
friends,
winning.
all your friends to hang out with after they fly
Yeah,
you into
true.
the meeting.
Here's some stats. I'm not gonna like just say it and assert it. I'm gonna give you the stats behind it. A board seat lasts on average 7 years. A cumulative board seat for a person gets on average 14 years on boards. Given the average board member starts when they're around age 60, that means you have an excellent shot of being on boards until your late 70s, right? Like if you are just slightly above average, you could be 77 years old still on boards. The average board pays about $200,000 per year, and there's about 12 meetings. That means if you get 3 to 4 boards in the time frame you're a board member, your board time earnings come out to $6.4 million or $17,000 per meeting. Tell me that isn't winning when the average board member gets voted out 0.2% of the
Yeah.
time and
Matt,
96% of investors
This
agree they're
is
doing
the
a
best
great job.
And Matt, if
Wait,
you're
is it
really
not?
lucky, you could land at like Best Buy. And I just covered Best Buy. They had 4 meetings last year, just 4.
Oh my
4
God.
meetings.
Yeah.
That we
That's
just covered
barely any
on the
work.
proxy countdown. We just covered Visa, whose board members make on average $370,000 a year.
Yeah.
And
Visa looks like a party. They're a party over
come
there.
on,
It's a
like,
party,
this is
all right.
amazing.
It's a party.
Meanwhile, the average American has yearly performance reviews, and 40% of Americans get laid off at least once in their careers. And the average bank account, the retirement account that they have at the age that you would get a board seat is $400,000. Board members are making $6.4 million. What after they're done with their careers?
Hey, little kid, what do you
Well
want to
done,
do when
Matt.
you grow up? I want to be a board member.
Tell me that those people are not winning, and I'll say you're lying.
Well, I will say this, Matt. I think it's a great choice, but ironically, the biggest sort of board story of the year, at least maybe there's a recency bias here, was the struggle at OpenAI, board versus CEO Sam Altman, and the board came out as losers. I mean, the women on the board did, I should say.
The women came out as losers. Just the women.
Yeah.
Because women lose always.
Because
But
women
that-
are big fat losers.
But that
They
might-
get fed last.
But that might be all the proof that you need,
All
that
day.
the board of directors it's a tenured position, you have it for life, and you're there to insulate the CEO, and that's what keeps you keeping your job for life, is that you just do the bidding of the CEO, right? That's it. That's a year in review show 2023.
That was it. That's Damian Hazelnut Rawlis. That's Ari the Data Queen, Jesse the Money Whisperer. I am your analyst, Matt Muscardi. We are Free Float. We will be back again. We won't be here next week.
We'll do
on
some shows.
Friday, I don't think.
No,
We're gonna
but we'll
some
do a few shows next
between
week.
now and the end
Yeah.
of the year. We've got prediction shows coming up. Also, the Proxy Countdown dropped this week, yesterday, the second episode in which we did cover the Visa vote and Microsoft and their results and all sorts of stuff from the AGMs. So go check that out. Go search for that. Until later, goodbye.